Stop. Before you scroll past this video, look down at your feet. Not at your shoes, not at the floor. At your feet. Because there's one sign that appears there, usually years before any doctor catches anything on a blood test, and almost no one connects it to what is silently happening inside their body right now. Most people call it a skin problem. Some blame the weather. Others just ignore it. But I'm going to show you today why that single sign on your feet could be the most important message your body has ever sent you, and why ignoring it may be the most dangerous mistake you ever make. My name is Dr. Vincent Halberg. I have spent over 2 decades studying metabolic dysfunction, specifically the quiet, invisible collapse that begins inside a body long before numbers on a lab report become alarming. I have reviewed thousands of patient cases. I have collaborated with endocrinologists across 3 continents, and I can tell you with full confidence, the body always warns you. The problem is that no one has ever taught you how to listen. That changes today. I want to ask you something before we go any further. When was the last time you felt genuinely energized after a meal, not artificially boosted by caffeine? Not that brief rush that crashes an hour later, but truly, steadily energized. If you are struggling to remember that feeling, I need you to stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I am about to share with you completely changed the way I look at metabolic health, and it may completely change how you understand your own body. We're going to go through 7 signs that appear in your feet, signs that most people dismiss every single day. I will walk you through each one, explain what your body is actually trying to tell you, and by the time we reach the 7th, the one that almost no one talks about, I think you're going to look at a very ordinary thing in a completely different way. Let us begin. The first sign is one that many people notice, but rarely question deeply. Wounds or cuts on your feet that take an unusually long time to heal. You might scrape a toe, develop a small blister, or cut yourself accidentally, and weeks later, that same spot is still raw, still red, still fighting to close. Most people assume it is just bad luck or sensitive skin. But here is what is actually happening beneath the surface. When blood sugar levels are chronically elevated, even slightly, even without a diagnosis, the body's ability to repair damaged tissue is quietly compromised. The immune cells that should rush to a wound and begin the healing process become sluggish. The blood vessels that should deliver oxygen and nutrients to injured tissue become stiff and narrow. The body's entire repair system slows down, and this is not a side effect of diabetes. This is often what happens years before diabetes is ever diagnosed. The wound that will not heal is not a skin problem. It is a circulation problem. And the circulation problem is a blood sugar problem. Remember that phrase, because we're going to come back to it. The second sign is something millions of people experience and attribute to entirely the wrong cause. Swelling in the ankles and feet, especially by the end of the day. You sit down, you take off your shoes, and there is that familiar puffiness around your ankles, that tightness that was not there in the morning. Most people blame it on standing too long, or on flying, or simply on getting older. But chronic low-grade swelling in the lower extremities is one of the clearest indicators of systemic metabolic inflammation. When the body is struggling to regulate blood sugar, a cascade of inflammatory signals begins circulating through the bloodstream. These signals cause the small blood vessels in your extremities to become leaky. And when vessels leak, fluid accumulates in surrounding tissue. This is your body trying to compensate. This is your immune system responding to something that should not be there. The swelling is not cosmetic. The swelling is a message. The third sign is something people almost never associate with blood sugar. Cold feet. Not cold because the room is cold. Not cold because you forgot your socks. But chronically cold feet that stay cold no matter how warm the environment is around you. People call it poor circulation and leave it at that. But the reason circulation becomes poor in the first place is a part nobody talks about. Insulin, which most people only think of in the context of diabetes, plays a critical role in blood vessel dilation. When the body becomes resistant to insulin, and resistance builds slowly, silently, over years, the fine network of capillaries in your extremities begins to suffer. Less blood reaches your toes, less warmth, less oxygen, and the feet become permanently, inexplicably cold. I have spoken with patients who wore thick socks to bed every night for years before anyone thought to connect it to their metabolic health. The coldness in your feet may not be about temperature. It may be about something happening in your blood. The fourth sign is one that is almost embarrassing to bring up, and that embarrassment is exactly why so many people never mention it to their doctor. Persistent itching on the soles of the feet or between the toes, sometimes with a faint rash or peeling that keeps coming back, no matter what cream or powder you use. Doctors often treat this as a fungal infection and send patients home with antifungal products. And sometimes it is fungal. But here is what the prescription rarely addresses. Why is the fungal environment so favorable in the first place? Elevated blood sugar creates an environment where microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, yeast, thrive. The skin on the feet, which is already exposed to warmth and moisture, becomes a perfect breeding ground when glucose levels in the tissue are elevated. You can treat the surface symptom indefinitely and never address the internal condition creating it. This is one of the most overlooked cycles in metabolic health, and most people are stuck in it right now without knowing why. The fifth sign affects sleep and therefore affects everything. Nighttime leg cramps, that sudden, sharp, involuntary contraction in the calf or foot that jolts you awake in the middle of the night. Most people reach for magnesium supplements or attribute it to dehydration, and those can help. But the deeper mechanism is this. When blood sugar rises and falls sharply throughout the day, especially in someone with early metabolic dysfunction, it disrupts the delicate balance of electrolytes in the muscle tissue. Sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium. These minerals are exquisitely sensitive to insulin levels. And when insulin signaling becomes erratic, the electrical stability of muscle cells is affected. The result is unpredictable, painful cramping that tends to happen at night when the body is trying to regulate and restore balance. If you are waking up with cramps in your legs or feet more than occasionally, your body is not just uncomfortable. It is telling you that something in its chemistry is off. The sixth sign is one that patients often describe as a strange feeling, hard to define, easy to dismiss. Tingling, numbness, or a pins and needles sensation in the toes or the ball of the foot. Sometimes it comes and goes. Sometimes it is a constant low hum that you have simply gotten used to. Doctors call the underlying mechanism peripheral neuropathy, and most people only hear that word after a diabetes diagnosis. But the nerve damage that causes this sensation does not begin at diagnosis. It begins with the first sustained elevations in blood sugar, which incur years, sometimes a full decade, before any clinical threshold is crossed. The nerves in the feet are among the finest and most delicate in the body. They are also among the first to suffer when glucose is consistently elevated. The tingling is nerve tissue communicating distress. It is not a minor inconvenience. It is one of the earliest biological alarms the body has available to it. And in most cases, it goes completely unaddressed. Now I want to pause here for just a moment, because if you recognize yourself in any of these signs, the swelling, the coldness, the cramps, the tingling, I want you to understand something important. This is not a conversation about fear. This is a conversation about information. Your body has been communicating with you, and perhaps for the first time, you are starting to hear what it is saying. What I'm going to share next has been quietly helping people support their body's metabolic balance through natural means. Not a drug, not a procedure, but a way of giving the body what it needs to do what it was designed to do. I will come back to that. But first, I promise you 7 signs. And the 7th one, the one I save for last, is the one that surprises people most. Stay with me. I have shown you 6 signs that most people either misread or completely ignore. Wounds that will not heal, unexplained swelling, chronically cold feet, persistent skin issues, nighttime cramps, tingling and numbness, each one a signal, each one a pattern. And most people who have 2 or 3 of these have simply learned to live with them, accepted them as part of aging, part of their normal. But the 7th sign is different. It is the one that almost no one, not even people who consider themselves health conscious, ever connects to blood sugar. It is also, in my clinical experience, often the most telling early indicator of all. Extremely dry skin on the feet, cracking heels, deep fissures that reopen every few days no matter how much moisturizer you apply. People buy creams, they buy special socks, they see podiatrists, and they get temporary relief over and over again without ever understanding why it keeps coming back. Here is what is actually happening. When blood glucose is chronically elevated, even mildly. The kidneys work harder to filter and excrete that excess sugar through urine. This process pulls water from the body's tissues. The skin, especially the thick skin of the heels, which has no oil glands and is already prone to dryness, becomes progressively dehydrated from the inside. No amount of external moisture fully compensates for moisture being pulled out from within. The cracking and dryness are not a skin condition. They are a hydration problem. And the hydration problem is a blood sugar problem. And the blood sugar problem is a metabolic problem. That chain, from heel to pancreas, is one that most people will never hear explained the way I have just explained it to you. And I am telling you this not to alarm you, but because you deserve to understand what your body is trying to say. So here's where we are. 7 signs. 7 messages from your body. Each one a clue to something happening far beneath the surface. In your blood, in your cells, in the metabolic system that controls how your body produces and uses energy. And what I want you to understand above everything else is this. High blood sugar is not the root problem. It is a warning signal. The root problem is a system under strain, a pancreas working too hard, cells that have become resistant to insulin signal, an inflammatory environment that makes every biological process slightly less efficient than it should be. And that strain builds quietly, consistently, over years, often with no dramatic symptoms, no sudden crisis, just a slow accumulation of small signals that most people dismiss one by one. The cold feet, the dry heels, the cramps in the night, the tiredness after lunch. These are not separate problems. They are parts of the same story. Now I want to tell you something that I think is profoundly important, and that I think gives genuine reason for hope. The metabolic system is not fragile. It is actually remarkably responsive when given the right support. Unlike many systems in the body that, once damaged, are slow to recover, the metabolic system, the interplay between the pancreas, insulin signaling, cellular energy use, and inflammation, can shift meaningfully when conditions around it change. I have seen people who were told their blood sugar was borderline for years make genuine, measurable progress simply by addressing the right underlying mechanisms. Not through restriction, not through extremism, through understanding what the body actually needs and providing it. There's a way to support your body's natural ability to regulate blood sugar, not by overriding it, not by forcing it, but by working with it, by reducing the burden on the systems that are already working too hard, by giving the body's own intelligence the resources it needs to do what was always designed to do. And that is exactly what I want to direct you toward right now. Below this video, in the description and in the first pinned comment, you will find a link to something I genuinely believe in, something designed to support metabolic balance through natural means, not a medication, not a miracle, a support system for a body that is trying its best and may simply need the right help. If even 2 or 3 of the signs I described today resonated with you, please do not wait. Click the link. Read what is there. Give your body the information it needs. Because here is the truth that I want to leave you with. The body does not fail suddenly. It gives warnings. It sends signals. The question is never whether the signals were there. The question is always whether you were paying attention in time. And right now, in this moment, you are paying attention. The signs in your feet are not random. The tiredness after eating is not normal. The cravings, the stubborn weight, the feeling that something is just slightly off, these are not weaknesses. They are communications. From a system that is still trying. From a body that has not given up. And the most powerful thing you can do right now, for yourself, for people who depend on you, for the version of you that deserves to feel well, is to act while the body is still in position to respond. Not next month, not after the holidays. Now, while the signal is clear, while the system still has room to shift. The link is below. It takes 30 seconds to look, and it may be the most important 30 seconds you spend today. I am Dr. Vincent Halberg. Thank you for watching, and thank you for finally listening to what your body has been trying to tell you.